Hi, it's time to learn macroeconomics again. Today we want to continue to finish chapter 17. For this part, there are several course targets. The first one is we are going to understand the relationship between interest rate and the current account balance. And then we are going to analyze how technological shock affect the current account balance. And then we will also talk about how the change of term of trade affects the current account balance. The reading is chapter 17. First, we want to look at the relationships between interest rate and the current account balance. Remember, we can write current account balance as the following way, where the first two terms are the income sources for the economy, and the minus part, they represent the spending for the nation. And for simplicity, we assume that the net international investment position, BF, is equal to 0. It's just for simplicity, but not necessary. Then current account is simply the difference between output and the all the expenditure part. And we know that the output part Y is pictured by YS, and C plus I plus G will be pictured by the YD line. We assume that initially the country is a closed economy. Therefore, the equilibrium interest rate will be 10% on the figure, and the output will be Y0. So start from the equilibrium closed economy interest rate 10%. If suddenly the economy open so that the country can borrow from overseas, and suppose the international interest rate is 8%, then what would happen? When the interest rate goes down from 10% to 8%, and because 8% is the international rate, which means that interest rate now is something that home country cannot affect. And when interest rate drop down to 8%, interest rate drop immediately for household, she might think that saving is not a deal as good as before, because now saving give you less interest income. And then the household will decide to save less and consume more today. That's why when the interest rate drop, the YD quantity will increase, just like what the red dot shows. On the other hand, because saving is not a good deal now, which means that the household would choose not to work so hard for saving. In this case, then we know that at the end, the labor quantity supply would drop, equilibrium employment would drop, therefore that output would decrease, which means that YS quantity would decrease from the red dot and move to that 8% location, which is lower. So the output quantity would decrease. That's why YS is a positive slope line against interest rate. And other than household decision that has impact on YD and YS quantity, here be careful, there's no shift of both lines. All the change is the movement along the curve, along the lines. The other thing that would change is from the firm side, for the investor side, for capital investment. For a producer, then she would think that because the interest rate now is lower, which means the investment cost is lower now. Therefore, it's very natural that the businesswoman, she would decide to increase her investment level. Therefore, YD part, the I component will increase as interest rate drop. So the reason that YD has a negative slope, that is because that consumption will increase as well as investment will increase with interest rate due to the story we just learned. So in summary, what we have so far is that when interest rate decreases due to market opening, then if the world interest rate is lower than original home rate, then interest rate would decrease. The first thing it would do is that it would decrease working incentive. because saving is not a good deal. So why should we work hard now for saving? So when working incentive decreases, it would decrease output. At the same time, it will also decrease saving incentive. It would mean that consumption would increase. Both actually are related to intertemporal substitution effect. So now we have the working incentive decrease, which decrease output, which decrease Y. And then we have the increase of consumption, so C will increase. So as to national saving, Y decrease, and consumption C increase. So now less output, more consumption, which would mean national saving would drop. And on top of that, we know that interest rate decrease means that investment cost drops. Therefore, we know the investment level would pick up. So altogether, we know that if home country's original interest rate, when it is a closed economy, when the home interest rate is higher, when the market open, interest rate drop, immediately it would decrease national saving because now people produce less and consume more. But at the same time, the investment level will pick up because the interest rate is lower, which means investment cost is lower. This would immediately make the market imbalance in the way that national investment now will be higher than national saving. And remember, current account is defined as Y minus C minus I minus G, which is simply, as we learned before, which is national saving minus investment. So current account basically measure the excess national saving relative to national investment. And now when the interest rate decrease due to market opening, apparently national saving drop, investment pick up, it would immediately decrease the current account balance. And it would decrease, its decrease will reflect on the situation that the net international investment position would drop. Net investment position drop means that home country actually will start to borrow from international market. This will make sense because now national saving level is not enough for national investment level. So to fulfill the investment gap, we need to borrow from international market. That's why we see current account balance decrease here. So based on what we have learned before, that we know that if after opening, the international interest rate is lower than the original closed economy rate, then the YD quantity will be larger than YS, which means that in this nation, we would have the current account deficit, which means that this country actually spend more than its output Y0. So if you spend more than your output, then it means that you must borrow from foreign country in the net term. That's why we will see current account deficit. On the other hand, if under the open economy, the international interest rate is higher than the original closed economy rate, then in this case, we will see output Y0 larger than the home country expenditure CI plus II plus GI. Then it means that we produce more than our spending. Therefore, we have more money saved to lend to foreign country. In this case, that's why we would have a current account surplus. Now we want to learn the relationship between technological shocks and the current account balance. Before we start, we actually observe from the data that during the 10 business cycle, a lot of time output fluctuate negatively with current account balance, which means that in the short run fluctuation, whenever output increase, current account balance decrease. Whenever output decrease, current account balance increase. We want to understand why such kind of a temporary output movement was negatively correlated with current account balance. So we use our model. We start from the scenario that we assume that there is a temporary technological improvement that can improve output and productivity, and its improvement will persist for a while but not permanent. So first, when there is a technological improvement that increase productivity, of course output will increase. At the same time, because we are talking about the improvement that's temporary, improve the wealth of household, therefore consumption will increase. But it will increase very little because we are talking about temporary improvement. So YD curve will move to the right, but very little. And at the same time, since the technological improvement that improve productivity will persist for a while, which means that the marginal productive capital (MPK) tomorrow actually would increase in this case. So it means that the benefit of investment today actually increase in this case. Therefore, investment will increase today. So if investment actually responds to such kind of improvement in a more dramatic way, at the end we will see that if the international interest rate is still fixed at I star, then what will happen to the current account balance is that at the current international interest rate, at the end, the production output will increase from Y0 to Y1, output increase. But what happened to current account balance? Current account balance is determined by the difference between output and the expenditure CIG. From here, we can see that at the end, actually, the output is less than the national expenditure, which means that we spend more than we produce this period. That's why we run into a current account deficit. We would have to borrow from foreign country in order to fulfill the expenditure gap that we create. So from here, we understand that whenever there's temporary technological improvement, it will increase output from Y0 to Y1, but at the same time, it would decrease current account balance from the original case, current account balance is 0, and now we have a current account deficit. So this is why we observe a weekly counter-cyclical fluctuation of current account balance. From this graph, we can see that weekly observed, we see that whenever current account balance increase, output decrease. Whenever output increase, current account balance decrease. So that's the reason behind this pattern is the graphical analysis we just learned. And we can extend our model to learn the case if the improvement of technology is permanent. In this case, the previous analysis for output increase is still the same, that technology improvement increase output. But the only thing different here is that now C increases as much as output because we are talking about permanent improvement. So the movement of YD will move out as much as the move out of YS. And if the interest rate is IS, we can see that probably at the end the C plus I plus G is still equal to the output Y. But remember, investment will also change here because the productivity of capital tomorrow will increase. It will increase investment further. From here, what we can definitely be sure is that when the technological improvement is permanent, then we will see that equilibrium output Y1 will be less than the equilibrium expenditure C1 plus I1 plus G. In this case, we spend more than we produce, then we run into current account deficit. To spend more than you produce, you borrow from home country. That's why we have a current account deficit. Now we want to analyze how the change of term of trade affect the current account balance. So we have two countries, Taiwan and the US. Taiwan is home country and US is foreign country. And in every year, Taiwan and the US produce different kind of goods. And then suppose Taiwan produce electronics and US produce a lot of agricultural goods. Then every year they will trade with each other for their own domestic needs. And what we concern here is that for each basket of Taiwan's electronic production, how many baskets of U.S. Agriculture basket can it get through trade? So this ratio will be called the term of trade. And what will be the number for the term of trade? It depends on the price tag for both countries' production basket. If the one basket of Taiwan's electronics goods costs P dollars, and one basket of U.S. agricultural goods costs PF dollars, and we assume that we already convert all the price tag to the same currency. Here it is home currency, New Taiwan dollar. Then apparently, for one basket of Taiwan production, it will be able to give you P divided by PF baskets of foreign baskets. So this P over PF will be called the term of trade value. And in each year, actually, Taiwan produced so many baskets of goods. Its total number will be called Y. And in the same time, US produced so many baskets of goods as well. We assume that in Taiwan, consumption, investment, and government purchase, they are all from the US. So they trade with each other in order to fulfill its domestic need. Then home production value in terms of its currency will be P times Y, and home total expenditure amount in its currency value will be PF times C plus I plus G. And based on the definition of current account, it will be defined as the sum of trade balance and the net asset income from abroad. Now we want to answer the question: if suddenly the term of trade in Taiwan changes, how can it affect Taiwan's current account balance? So first, we rewrite current account balance on the slide, and we only consider the current account balance in the units of its foreign goods purchasing power, which means that how many foreign basket it can produce. So we simply divide it by the price of foreign basket. Then we will end up with this current account balance denominated in foreign purchasing power. And for simplicity, we assume initial net international investment position is equal to 0. So we can drop the BF term. And the first one, this is the YS denominated in its foreign goods purchasing power. It represents how much foreign goods our local production can afford. And the second term is actually the YD term. It means that how many output does home country demand, and in terms of foreign goods. Now we want to use YSYD graph to analyze the impact of term of trade change. And for the YSYD curve analysis, our vertical axis is interest rate I, but here our horizontal axis is in terms of foreign goods unit. So given that the P divided by PF fixed and others being equal, and since we know that YS curve is positive slope with interest rate, so of course this curve will also be positive slope with interest rate as well. This curve represents home production's purchasing power in terms of foreign goods. And then we can draw the other graph later that represent YD. But before we go further, from this graph we know that when the term of trade improves, which means this ratio increase, it has two impacts on the location of the line. The first thing is that it would directly increase the value because the P divided by PF increases. That's the direct effect. But indirectly, it would affect the our home marginal production of labor value. Here, for home production, because home consumer only care about how many foreign goods it can consume. Therefore, for producer, what they care about is how much foreign goods that marginal productivity of labor can give him. So therefore, the marginal productivity of labor represents the productivity of labor, how much home production it can produce, but we are going to use that to buy foreign goods. That's why we have to times it by P divided by PF. So apparently, if the term of trade improve, this price ratio improve, it would make local firms feel that labor productivity somehow increases. Therefore, home producer would decide to hire more labor, which will also enhance the YS value. So both terms, they will increase when P divided by PF increases. Therefore, when the term of trade improves, this line will shift to the right. And now we put the YD line on the same graph. We start from the case, suppose that the real interest rate is Y star, and we assume that under this real interest rate, the current account balance is equal to 0. That's why it would pass by the intersection of these two curves. Now we analyze the scenario of a temporary improvement on the turn of trade, TOT. When the turn of trade, TOT, improve, means this ratio increases, we know that it will immediately move the line to the right. It would create a positive wealth effect on consumption, but this effect will be very small. The reason it is going to be very small, it is because that we are talking about temporary improvement. So because it's very small, you can see that I move the YD line outward, but mildly. And secondly, when the turn of trade improves, here we assume that normally the improvement will last for a while. In this case, the benefit of investment will increase. Why? Here we assume home country only consume foreign goods. Therefore, when home producer produce, he cares about how much foreign goods his production can be used for trading for foreign goods. Therefore, one more unit of investment actually can give the producer MPK more units of home goods, which can be used to trade for P divided by PF times the MPK units of foreign goods. Therefore, the net marginal benefit of one unit of investment is actually equal to that modified MPK minus delta, the depreciation rate. So apparently, when the term of trade improves and is last for a while, which means that the productivity of capital also improves tomorrow. Therefore, investment today will increase, which will shift the YD curve to the right. Here we assume the shift is very big. So what we have so far is that the improvement in the turn of trade directly increases the value of home production. So you can see at the end the production increases to that new level. And at the same time, it also increased the investment and consumption. And however, here the increase of investment is strong here. Therefore, we can see that originally we have a current account balance equal to 0. But now, because of the improvement of term of trade, which increases the investment so much, which means that the home expenditure exceeds home production. Now we will see a current account deficit. So as we can see that in this example, a temporary improvement on the term of trade actually decreases current account balance.